Hi there, welcome to Our Story in downtown Stratford, Ontario. This is a new series, it's our second episode, and I appreciate you joining us for Your Story from Our Story. Today our guests are Colleen Schindler and Graham Lynch, and they have artwork here, but they also have some great stories to tell of not only their work and their creativity, but also the crazy summer you've had. Well, not even summer, spring and summer.
It's been full, absolutely.
Jump right in. Tell us about, I guess, right around the time I was going to open Our Story, you were headed off on the first of, I think, 3 adventures.
We were headed off for 3 artist residencies, global. Sorry, I'm also fighting a cough already, so I apologize.
You can sit.
So since I was also there, we did 3 artist residencies this spring, and the first of them was, as you said, right around the time that you were opening. We went back to a place in France that we had been the previous year, and did a couple of weeks and continued bodies of work that we had developed just within this past year. And now I'll pass it back to you. There you go.
Yes, we were fortunate enough to be both on sabbatical because we both teach at Toronto Metropolitan University as well. But as practicing artists, we don't get a lot of time to focus time, right? And going on these sabbaticals allowed us to go to places that were incredibly inspiring outside of the normal, and it really kind of unleashed bodies of work that neither of us really expected to come about. So it was inspirational, is really what took away from that.
For artists in the audience that haven't experienced a residency either home or abroad, tell us about, I know there's an application process, there's they choose probably for various reasons depending on the place you're going, but tell us a bit about after you've been accepted, what the host and what yourselves are hoping for out of these experiences.
Yeah, we've done just 3 this spring alone, and they've been with 3 different companies or 3 different locations, and 3 have been in France. 1 was in Ireland, 1 was in Nova Scotia. So they've all been different in terms of how they were presented. And sometimes 3 have been with 1 company, Atelier Air, and they're a very full service kind of scenario, in that you're given a space to work, you're given a room, and in that case, some meals were included. So that was nice because you didn't even have to worry about, oh, what am I going to make for dinner kind of thing. It sounds like a small thing, but it's huge when you're working along. The spaces to be able to work were anything from very dirty stables, but then you didn't have to worry about making a mess. And in others, they were pristine kind of spaces, so we had to be a lot more careful in those instances. But really, it was the opportunity to be around other creatives, because creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum. You need to feed the beast. So talking with like-minded people. Several of the residencies had like 10 to 15 people. The last residency that we did, it was just us in a house in France. So it really is quite broad, the different experiences that we had.
Okay.
Do you want to add to?
Anything to add?
Trying to think of how you phrased the question about, I guess, applying for them and that sort of thing. And yeah, in each case, there was a portfolio and a statement of intent that was submitted. I think, to a certain extent, the days of the fully funded residency seem to be passing. There seem to be few of those around. Fortunately, we did have a little bit of funding from the university to go on these, but like as part of our sort of research and creative activity, that's part of our jobs. And yeah, I was just going to say that the first one was also partially funded by Sotheby's, and there were 8 of us selected by a double peer-reviewed process, and I believe the number, I think there were, at that time as a new residency, I think it was 360 applicants. But some of the others, Chateau Orcovo that we're going to next year, it's about 2,500 applicants that they have. So we've been fairly fortunate, I think, in terms of having not only a concentrated period of time and choosing to do this with it, choosing to re-engage with artwork in a focused way, and to be accepted to so many of these places. Certainly the one that the company that we've been back to with Atelier Air, once that first application process, he's been kind of like, okay, you can return, and it hasn't been as rigorous each time because he knows who we are and what we do and how we do it. So,
Right.
And that we're serious and committed to it, obviously.
Yeah, that's important. So you came back from one, hung a show at Gallery Stratford,
Yep.
and then went off to the second one. Tell us a bit about having an opening in absentia, and then coming home and hosting your closing party, I guess, as it were.
Yeah, that was really a whirlwind, I have to say. We had just gotten back from, France was in March, and had an incredible opportunity come up to have solo exhibitions at Gallery Stratford, which is an absolutely lovely gem of a place, gallery here in Stratford. And within 2 weeks, took a lot of the work that was freshly made in France, took it to be framed, turned around, had conversations, put together didactic panels. It was quite a whirlwind. Assisted with hanging the show, even stopped at the gallery the morning we were leaving to put up labels, and hopped on a plane and left. So it was really quite a whirlwind between 2 of the residencies. And it was nice, actually, to be able to drop something off, having never actually seen it all together. You're making a piece, You're not looking at it necessarily as an entire body of work. And so to be given the opportunity to have it right there and then framed, hung up in a cohesive voice, that was actually a really interesting thing to experience with the work. At least it was for me. I think it was the same for you. And coming back, we still got to participate in it. So, if a show was on the other side of the country or in another country or something, you don't always get to go to a show anyway, but it was really lovely to be welcomed into the community even more. So.
Yeah, then you came back from that one and hung my space.
Yep, came in
and not only
assisted
with
here.
your work, but other people. And that, what you were just saying, speaks to me, because I chose work and artists that I wanted to work with and had no clue if it would come together and look well. As you know, I was thinking of giving each artist a wall in here, and then you taught me about things like salon hanging and what work from other artists would look good against Graham's work or your work. And for those who haven't been, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a very cohesive voice here.
Yes, and congratulations. I meant to say that off the top. To both of us, really, to all 3 of us. We sold some of both of your work over the last 2 weeks here at Our Stor, so it's exciting for all of us.
Yeah, there's been incredible support in this community, absolutely, for the store, for visual arts, for everything. We're incredibly blessed since we've moved here. So.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go way back now. I want to hear from both of you on creativity and discovering yours. This is kind of something I like to get into with everybody I interview. when do you feel like, do you remember a moment when you discovered you were creative and what you were doing, what medium, or I don't know, maybe it was stand-up comedy, but when you knew that you wanted to pursue this and there was something to dig deeper on?
I wouldn't say mine was necessarily a discovery. I always was creative, and that comes from my family. So I had two very creative grandmothers, one from California who would come to visit, and when she came, she always had a project for us to work on. She might have taught me embroidery, she might have taught me a little knitting. I do have to say I'm dyslexic, and she was not very patient and left-handed, so there was a lot of miscommunication that happened, but you know, sometimes it was something as silly as learning how to ice a cake. But we were always doing things. My other grandmother sewed all the time, so she was always showing me how to sew garments and whatnot. So my favorite things were always the hands-on making in school. I mean, obviously being dyslexic, I didn't discover that until years and years later. But math, not so much. I did like science, but the creative subjects really are what came to me. And honestly, the thing that always sticks in my mind when I knew that I wanted to do something creative was we always had the school books that we had to fill out. So in kindergarten, my school book says photographer, artist, ballerina, go-go dancer. So I was clearly watching some TV or something, but nothing was, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be it was all creative things. And my family, thankfully, supported all of that.
And you, sir?
Well, I was trying to think of other things to say while Colleen was talking, actually. But I do actually remember, I'm probably 3-4 years old. We'll go with 4, it's more realistic. And sitting at the kitchen table and my dad teaching me to draw a castle using simple shapes like squares and triangles and things like that. And, that's always stuck in my mind as sort of something. He was a painter, wasn't around very long, but that's always sort of stuck as like an early moment of creative activity. But one thing, very recently, we had the opportunity to reconnect with one of our professors from art school. Both of us went to the University of Windsor to do a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and so Bill Law was one of our sculpture professors. And I chose Bill to be my 4th year painting instructor for my thesis. And mostly because I knew Bill wouldn't make me paint. I was hitting a moment where painting was not speaking to me anymore. And Bill was not going to make me paint, but he would make me work. And I do remember one day he was pretty fed up with my lack of productivity and told me I had to do 500 drawings a day. And I, just shitting bricks over 500. How is that even possible? So I don't make my students do that. And in fact, I think, I don't know that I ever actually got 500. That's a whole ream of paper. But that wasn't the point. And I still tell my students about this. And it's really about engaging with the things in an obvious way, about just drawing the things that are in front of you, or, and you're going to repeat yourself over and over and over. And then hopefully something happens. And there's a moment where it changes, and a moment where you recognize what that change is, and you're probably going to try and repeat it and then continue. And working through that process of, 500 is a number where, if you break it down, this is seconds per drawing. And it's about just continuing and working past it. And, maybe the next day, sifting through those and looking at those moments where something different happened. So that task of being given 500 drawings, I think, is one of the things that I keep revisiting. I don't do it, clearly, but
Thinking through it is...
thinking through it is a really important part of it. And I tell my students about it, and I've designed assignments around that in ways that are about encouraging that kind of quick response and intuitive response, and you know, building in moments for analysis.
Can I also just add
Sure.
one thing? Just because both of us brought up memories from when we were really, really young, is about access and support, I'd have to say. So really for me, once I was in high school, and I grew up in Emeryville, it's a very small town, went to school in Bell River, which only had a population of about 1,500. But in that small town high school, there were 3 art teachers. We had the best art program around. And I think out of my graduating class in art, you know, maybe there were 15 in the class or something. There's about 8 or 9 of us that went on to get master's degree, and quite a few of those are instructors now. It's really interesting when there is support and fostering early on. And that's what people don't really understand. We're not all the same kind of learners, right? So governments, programs, parents, you need to listen to what your child is interested in and help foster that, because it will find its way.
Okay, with that in mind, what practices and processes are bringing you the most joy and excitement right now?
Well, for me, it's drawing. Coming back to drawing, the last body of work that I did was really heavy emotional photography-based things. And I wanted to come back around to something that was very immediate. So that's also why I chose abstraction. I wasn't interested necessarily in the representation of an item that is out there already. I was trying to get back to mark making that is the way that I make a mark that's different from you, that's different from Graham, that's different from everybody. We all have access to the same materials, but not any of us is going to use them the same way. So it's kind of like a non-figurative self-portrait. That speaks about me more than anybody else. And the recent bodies of work that I've been dealing with are about taking time to just look around at our surroundings, especially after the last few years of COVID and taking things for granted prior to that and reprioritizing, giving yourself time to be still, I say, permission to be still. So for me, it's the immediacy of drawing right now. And I think that there's some painting about to come out too, because I want to start working larger.
I'm embarrassed to say I've forgotten the question.
What practices and processes are getting you excited right now, or continuing to keep you engaged?
Okay. The current body of work is, it's photographic, but I've been using collage to alter negatives and to work larger than typically I'm able to from a digital negative. As the work got larger, I think I started thinking about immediacy as well, because they can be kind of time consuming, and I've been thinking a lot about drawing. Maybe Colleen makes me think about drawing, I'm not sure. But we went to the life drawing class at Gallery Stratford on Wednesday, and for the first time. And so I haven't done life drawing in 30 years. And I was kind of surprised. They're not bad. I mean, I got some proportion issues, but it was fun to re-engage with that. And I think also leading partially from the body of work that that I showed at Gallery Stratford, there have been some new things that are evolving. I'd been working with these glass negatives that were sort of found in the back of a garage at a chateau in France that the guy's mother kept backing her car into. So going through those, I was really intrigued by the kind of the oxidation on the negatives, and having printed a number of them, really there's something about the preserving a fleeting quality that's from these negatives that are really degrading in very damp environments and things like that. So I started playing around with actually just drawing with some graphite on Mylar, and what I discovered is the more I worked it, the shinier it got. And it really started making me think about these negatives. So I've been doing some photographic work onto burnished graphite on Mylar that has a relationship somehow with those glass negatives from France. I don't know what this is yet. It's definitely an extension of the work from Of Breath and Water, but there's something else going on.
I think I saw you shared some of that.
Yeah,
on
and they're
Instagram.
really difficult to photograph because depending on how you're looking at them, they can appear almost just like black rectangles hanging on a wall. The light catches them, and they are these fleeting silvery images. So.
But it's also interesting because you talked about your fourth year Bill Law advisor, and you said the last thing you wanted to do was paint, even though you were a painting major. Yeah. And I get the benefit of seeing what you're working on in its absolute infancy. And you've been working on paintings recently. So it's quite interesting that
But they're
Jigs
terrible.
up.
right now you're not happy with them, but I'm just saying things come back around.
Yeah, there's a giant, really ugly Clifford Still on my wall in the basement.
Well, if anybody wants to see these works in progress and follow along, you can obviously follow Our Story on Instagram and see that I've tagged Colleen and Graham multiple times, and find their handles that way, probably the easiest. Anything you'd like to add, subjects we didn't cover, things you kind of were excited to talk about today, or anything that's coming up you want to share?
No, I mean, we both have ongoing bodies of work that we're working on. Mostly I wanted to come and talk because I wanted to thank you for your support, for Our Story's support in the community and the arts. So Gallery Stratford for their support that, we just moved here 3 years ago, that we feel like Stratford's a really good fit for us. But also it's been incredibly supportive and welcoming. So thank you for that.
As someone who came here 3 years ago as well, very, very thankful for this place as well. Graham, anything else you want to touch on?
Same, I guess.
Same.
I
right.
don't know.
Okay, then we'll wrap it up there. Thanks to everybody who joined us online. Thanks to the folks that came in person. The crowd is growing, I feel like, and we'll be back in 2 more weeks. Oh, and thanks so much to Stu Cappy, who's doing all our audio video today kindly, and he works, well, I won't say what he works for. I won't tell you what his going rate is, but it involves kombucha and hop water. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.